Hello and welcome into this week's RNN Diecast review right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Fr8Auctions. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's RNN Diecast review, you've seen the title, you can see the box in front of you. It is a truck this week. And it is going to be Brett Moffitt's Chicagoland winning truck, the third race that he won this season. They did not offer the fourth and the fifth races that he won this season. And then obviously they're offering the Homestead win for the championship race. So 4 of the 6 races that Moffitt won in 2018 were offered. 505 made of this Chicagoland win. So take a look at what comes in the box here. We've got a Truck Series winner sticker as usual. Bag of red, white, and blue confetti. And the race stat card. Brett Moffitt, Overton's 225 winner, June 29th, 2018. 4th Truck Series victory. Is that right? Yes, 4th Truck Series victory. Moffitt powers to last lap win at Chicago. You can pause to read if you want to. Had to think about that for a second if 4th was right or not, because I know we've had a couple of stat cards they put out this season that weren't 100% accurate on what the career win total was for these drivers. All right, so take a look at the truck here. This is, I think, definitely probably the most detailed raced one we got from Moffitt for 2018. The others, Iowa had a little bit of confetti, but there wasn't a lot, and there really wasn't any damage to speak of for the most part. And then Atlanta was super clean. No confetti really to speak of, not even any real rubber buildup, but this one, if nothing else, has a lot of confetti, which is cool. Take a look at the nose here, a little bit of tape, a little bit of confetti, Toyota Tundra, HRE, and the number 16 on the hood here. Fr8Auctions.com, covered up by a lot of red, white, and blue confetti. Camping World banner across the windshield, more confetti, 16 and much more confetti across the roof here. On the back here, Moffitt across the back window, Toyota and Northland Foundation Inc., I believe is what that says. I can't completely read it through the confetti, but I think that says Northland Foundation Inc. Something Iowa, Ames, Iowa, I think is what it says. And then take a look here. Down the driver's side, contingency sponsors, Brett Moffitt, and 2 winner stickers across the name rail. Interesting. So he put the extra winner sticker on the passenger side. I didn't realize that. It sponsors down the B post, number 16. DDA, Sirius XM, and TRD in front of the rear wheel. Fr8Auctions.com on the quarter panel. Nothing on the back bumper. And then relatively the same thing down the passenger side. Again, the 3 winner stickers, the extra one that Brett put on in Victory Lane is actually here on the passenger side, which is not normal. Curious why that was the case in this race. But otherwise, pretty much the same thing down the passenger side. So overall, a pretty good looking truck. This one was one of the more interesting trucks of the season in terms of, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this was one of those races that initially this team did not have a sponsor for, and they weren't sure if they were even going to be at the track. And then Fr8Auctions stepped up at the last minute and sponsored them for this race. I believe this was one of those races. I know there was, I want to say there was 4 or 5 races in 2018 where they didn't initially have a sponsor. So they weren't sure if they were going to get to the track, and it was like a last minute thing that they would get a sponsor, which is really fascinating given the fact that they won the championship. The team that ultimately won the championship had that big of sponsor issues. It's just amazing to me that we are at that point with this sport that the most successful team in a series, the one that wins the championship and ties for the most race wins in a season, had trouble filling the sponsorship obligations for the entire season. It's just amazing to me that we're at that point with this sport. But in terms of the diecast, this is a fantastic looking diecast. I'd say definitely probably the best looking of the Moffitt raced wins so far for 2018. We haven't seen what the Homestead one looks like yet. I imagine that one looks pretty good. That's another Ison truck. And that's what sponsor was on the truck at the Atlanta race. So, I mean, if you're up in the air in terms of which Moffitt raced wins to get, I think in terms of the ones produced thus far, this is definitely the best looking one. The sponsor on the Iowa win is really cool. The Smart Series Destiny Homes, that was a really cool looking paint scheme. And of course the Ison truck for Atlanta. I mean, that's just a really cool iconic paint scheme at this point for a Hattori Racing truck. But again, that's the same sponsor that was on the truck for Homestead. So it depends what the Homestead truck looks like, because the Atlanta truck is really clean. It's very hard to differentiate the Atlanta race win from a clean version of the Ison truck. So if you're looking for a Brett Moffitt raced win and you only want one, you don't maybe want the whole set or whatever, I would recommend the Chicago one, because I think if you're looking for one that clearly is a raced win version and couldn't be mistaken for maybe a clean version, I think this is definitely the one you want to go with, having not seen the Homestead one just yet. But I believe that will do it for us on this week's Diecast review. We got, speaking of Atlanta, we have that coming up this weekend. Xfinity and Truck doubleheader on Saturday, and then Cup on Sunday, as long as the rain holds off. Thus far, the 5-day forecast looking out does not look great for Atlanta this weekend, so we'll fingers crossed that the race gets in this weekend. But especially Saturday, I'm really concerned with Xfinity and Trucks on Saturday, because the weather definitely does not look great for Saturday. But either way, we will have rewind shows for all of that this weekend, as well as a Cup preview show Sunday morning around 10 a.m. So look for all that coming up this weekend. And then, of course, Diecast review again next week. We're looking at doing 2 cars in next week's Diecast review, so keep an eye out for that. 2 cars should be in next week's Diecast review. That's contingent on one of them is actually just showed up at Lionel and is just starting to get into the process of being shipped here. So it's possible that one may not make it here by then. So we will see how that all lines out. But the plan right now, as long as everything works out, is that there will be 2 cars on next week's Diecast review. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, it is both Chicagoland raced versions from 2018. So it'll be the Kyle Busch raced win version, and then the Kyle Larson raced version that they did as well, because they both got up in that tangled mess there on the last lap and did race versions of both of those. The Larson version is already here. So if nothing else, the Larson car will be next week's Diecast review. As long as the Kyle Busch car shows up in time, that will be on next week's Diecast review as well. If not, it will be the next week. But looking to hopefully have both of those on, since they're from the same race. I try to keep, if they make multiple raced versions from one race, I like to try and keep those in the same review. So as long as the Kyle Busch car shows up by then, it will be in next week's Diecast review. But I think that'll do it for us. So if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. And while you're down there, why don't you hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video? It is much appreciated when you do, and it helps us out so much when you do that. But at that, this has been the RNN Diecast Review. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.